Who is this super YouTuber? Is it Paul, the Joy Toy Collector? Andy, the Newcastle United fan? Jamie, the GoBot hater? Alexis, the salesman? Rohan, the man with the plan and the Wall of Fame? Might just be Rohan's Corner, Super Transformers guy. Rohan's Corner, poking Hasbro in the eye. Oh, he's so fly, a groovy guy with a beard that just won't stop. When the bots get rough, he's super tough as third party cleans up. Rohan's Corner, Super Transformers guy. Rohan's Corner, poking Hasbro in the eye. Welcome to Blitzwing headquarters! And in case you missed it, welcome to Rohan's Corner, where this week we will be doing our Through the Generations review of none other than Star Toys Blitzwing, the first good masterpiece and any other scale Generation 1 Blitzwing toy. So let's get into it. Alright, so we start off as ever with the packaging, which is of course vast. I'm not used to doing these masterpiece scale reviews, obviously. It's a nice purple and yellow design. This is the first release from Star Toys, and if it's anything to go by, I will possibly be getting more depending on the characters. I love the little artwork design sketch of the engineering of Blitzwing across here in the background. Unfortunately, as you can see, my box has suffered some damage. He's called Commander GASTO1, not particularly interesting, yes. On the top it just says Star Toys. On the side we get a nice homage of the jet mode and its design blueprint and commander, and again on the back we get the design blueprints. These look more like the Generation 1 toy in the sense that he's very wooden looking. Lots of cautions and foreign language as you'd expect, made in China, and please recycle the box. And that's about it for the box. On the other side we have the tank mode, so that's cool. Inside the box you get the Star Toys card with a QR code for where to see the instructions, because there are no instructions included. And you get a nice big clamshell with Blitzwing in it. I've taken him out, obviously. He comes with his gun and his sword, which I'm not bothering to use, and also one spare face. And he comes with one spare grumpy face, which I've already traded out for this sort of standard face, if you like, and I'll show the grumpy face on him, obviously, later. And here is the big boy out of the packaging. One thing to note, when he comes in his robot mode out of the packaging, his heel spurs are not extended, so you do need to extend them to get some stability when you're posing him. But he looks absolutely fantastic. And let's just bring him a little bit forward. We can see a very G1 toon aesthetic going on across the board. The purple pops really nicely with the yellow and the red on the head and on the chest. It's a very clean toon aesthetic look. And obviously he has the ability to hold both his iconic weapons with extenuating fingers and thumb, with articulation on all of those aspects, which is really cool. For me, this is the absolute best incarnation of the Blitzwing robot mode we have seen in any toy ever made. Posability is really good, but it is hindered a little bit by the obvious backpack and transformation elements. But see, it feels really nice. There's die-cast parts, there's ratchets pretty much everywhere. Then here's a look at Grumpy or Shouty Face. I much prefer this look. It's very easy to swap over the faceplate. Taking a look down the side, he cleans up really nicely with some sculpted work done on the wings, on the side wings, on the treads, and on the weapon here on the back, which is cool. We twist him around to the back, obvious backpack, a little bit of panelage there that you can see some transformation elements, obviously the wheels, but overall it looks pretty good. And if you compare this to the other Blitzwings we have out there at the moment, I would say it's still 100 miles better and the best. Paint apps are good. There is a difference in the paint between the sand yellow here and the whiter color on the thighs and on the waist here, which works for me. It's not hugely different, but it's slightly different. Okay, and so here we have a flurry of blitzies, and as you can see, the fact that I've got 5 of them shows quite how much I am a fan of this character. But in terms of the execution, we can see it's never been done fantastically, especially the robot mode. Generation 1 Blitzwing was great in both alt modes, but the robot mode left a lot to be desired. The updated versions we had were obviously the Generations version, which more IDW styled, and so I didn't even bother. I think I did buy it and then I sold it on quite quickly, followed by the Titans Return Legends version, which looks okay, but again, I find it's very stylized. It's not Generation 1 aesthetic for me. It has a lot of kibble and bits and pieces all over the place on it, as you can see. Followed up by Mech Toys, which was, until now, my favorite version of Blitzwing. Still, comparing him with Star Toys, he's definitely nowhere near as clean as Star Toys in terms of the legs, in terms of just the amount of kibble that you can see around the figure itself. And also, it is more restrictive in terms of the articulation than Star Toys as well. And of course, we have Legacy. And when Legacy first was shown off and we first saw him, everybody loved the robot mode. And I think the paint applications on the Legacy version are really good. But ultimately, I think they're trying to cover up something that's missing there. And here we have the comparison with some other robot modes for third party and Hasbro toys. On the right hand side, we've got Pangu Toys Legends Scale Omega Supreme, who basically is the same height as this Star Toys Blitzwing. So yeah, there's a bit of a correlation between the Masterpiece Deluxe, I guess, scale and Legends kind of combiner, or large kind of Titan scale, if you like. I don't know if Omega's considered Titan. He's not really, or Citybot. And then on the left, we've got Earthrise Snapdragon, who's about half the height. Mech Toys Snarl, also about half the height. And down the front, we've got Rising Forces Wild Rider and Magic Squares Huffer, who are obviously much, much smaller. Now, Shifter be smashed! And so we have Blitzwing in his wonderful tank mode. And you can see it is huge. I mean, not just is it huge, it's so wide, it is quite deep. The turret is excellent on there. You can maneuver it. It goes up and down. You can retract it. You can extend it. You've got the front end cockpit, which Hasbro tried to do and failed at. You've got the tracks looking pretty good there. And the color scheme is all right. You've got the sand and the purple tidies up quite nicely. There is little bits and areas where there's a little gappage, but you know, you can forgive that, and obviously you can see some exposed screws and some exposed holes, but it is a triple changer and you're never going to get everything on this triple changer. But I really like it. I think it looks fantastic, and the transformation is hard. It's complex, it takes time, it takes patience, but it actually makes sense and everything fits together quite nicely and pegs in well. The only thing I will say is that the pegs can be pretty tight, and unfortunately on my copy I've already managed to get one peg stuck and snap off here, as you can see, so I would recommend a lot of patience with that. Also, one further thing, if I just disconnect the tank turret here and show you the underneath, there is a molding error here. As you can probably see, the bottom of the turret, this area here which is empty, it doesn't really make any difference because you can't see it in any of the modes. I think it could do with some stickers or maybe a couple of lights like they had in the G1 show. Would have been nice in this area here just to close all of this up. There are bits where you do have to keep fiddling with the connection just to make sure it's all tabbed together, and because I've lost that tab there, this side doesn't quite tab in as it should, but you wouldn't actually notice because it all holds together really solidly, really well. Right, let's get Star Toys in with his G1 style Blitzwing tank brethren then. We have, of course, the original Generation 1 Blitzwing, whose tank mode still stands up and stacks up today. Technically, it should be the other way around for the cartoon, but this is how it shows it on the instructions, so you can have it either way, really. I suppose you could do that with most of them. We've got Legacy, who has the protruding cockpit issue, and obviously has the thruster issue at the back, showing off a few gaps in him as well, but is okay overall. Mech Fans Toys, which up until now was my favorite tank mode, but again it has the exposed thrusters at the back, a little bit of gappage here on the front. Other than that, actually cleans up quite nicely. And then the Hasbro Legends figure, which has a little bit of jet and thrusters at the front of it, a big jet cockpit hiding underneath the tank, a turret there, and yeah, it's okay. It's not great anymore. So ultimate winner by far is Star Toys. I do think Mech Fans Toys is still pretty good for the size though. And so a quick alt mode, tank mode comparison with some others then. I had to get the Kingdom Warpath to do a tank on tank comparison. We have the Fans Toys KO of Astro Train over here, Toy World's B, who's a lot smaller, the New Age Outback, who is pretty diddy, Magic Square's Hound and Magic Square's Jetfire, and the Velocitron Hauler. He's obviously a lot bigger than most of those. He scales really well with the Fans Toys KO Astro Train, obviously. Come on down, Otto Brat. Sometimes it's better to be known for one's enemies. Alright, so I've done the transformation to jet mode from tank mode a couple of times now, and actually it's not too difficult once you get the hang of it. It's a little bit like Fans Toys Astro Train in the sense that you need to mess about with the arms, the wings, the chest, and yeah, it gets there in the end. It's not too unintuitive, to be honest with you. And actually, it looks fantastic in jet mode. Let's just have a quick look. It's a very clean look on the top here. The only really bit that you might complain about is some of these holes and the likes for the transformation, but ultimately it cleans up really well. There's no real gappage. There's a couple of small holes that you can see through there. It looks absolutely stunningly like the animation model in the sense that you've got these built-in missiles which need to be removed for transformation, which is quite cool and clever, and landing gear that works, and he rolls really nicely, and really big thrusters on the back. The turret has been nicely concealed, unlike every other incarnation of Blitzwing ever made. You can't really tell it's a turret. It's there, you can see it inside, but you wouldn't have thought it is the turret, and it gives you a little bit of undercarriage, but not anything massive. There are a few niggly bits like the thrusters. They don't seem to want to stay 100% together, but it's not that bad. And you can see some of the tank treads, but that's part of the animation model as well. Everything else is pretty much spot on. And so, bringing in the usual suspects, we have again a Legacy Blitzwing, who obviously looks fantastic from the top. Lovely purple paintwork. The yellow goes well, but then you look at the undercarriage and you look at the tank under there, and it's just horrible. Even in the fan-made third-party modes, it still doesn't really match up. Mech Fans Toys Blitzwing in his jet mode is probably the weakest of the three modes, but it's still decent. I like the inbuilt weapons, just like on Star Toys here, and it has the right shape, it has the right clean look. The tank is still obviously present there, just as the G1 one was all those years ago. And again, G1 and Star Toys look quite similar in design. The paint apps and everything look pretty much spot on. Again, it's got the tank turret underneath. And lastly, you've got Legends Blitzwing, who not really the right color for me, but yeah, hey, comes with the little Titan Master, a little bit of undercarriage. You can see the arms there, which is not the best thing in the world, I would say. Ultimately, it's okay. Again, the tank turret, which has become sort of synonymous with the character, I guess, over the years. And lastly, for comparison, I've brought some other jets to look at next to him. So we've got the Kingdom Cyclonus, which is actually quite big and might actually scale not too badly considering Blitzwing was a big jet. We have the G2 Cyberjet at the back there, much smaller, this Siege Micromaster. Mech Fans Toys is Astro Train, which is obviously tiny, and then the shuttle for Astro Train, the Fans Toys KO, which is smaller actually. And yeah, I mean, Blitzwing doesn't look like he would fit in the back of that shuttle any day of the week. Obviously, there's some issues with the magnitudes of scale, but ultimately they do line up nicely next to each other. Right, okay, so to wrap up my final thoughts then on Star Toys Blitzwing, I would say it's a great bot. I love all three modes, are absolutely nailed in terms of the animation aesthetic, as close as we've ever had. For about 120 odd dollars, I think it's a good price for the first attempt from this company. It's not bad. There are issues. Obviously, as I mentioned about the tabs and the quality control is not quite there, but ultimately it's not bad. It's not Hasbro levels. And in terms of the paint apps, I quite like it. I know a lot of people are complaining about the toon aesthetic, but that is what it is meant to be. So it does a good job of that. And there are some nice touches like the built-in weaponry and the turrets are really well designed. So I recommend him if you're into Masterpiece Scale, or even if you're like me and you just love the character, then he's a must buy. I would recommend the TM Reviews video instructions on transformation, because the official instructions on transformation, which is a video, are not brilliant. And so definitely go check that out. That's where I had to watch the transformation several times to be able to get it through. And once you start doing it a couple of times, you get the gist of it. It's pretty cool. So that's been Rohan for another week. I hope you've enjoyed this Through the Generations review of Star Toys Blitzwing. Join me again next week where I may have another review for you. Back to the studio. Transformers, Rohan's in disguise.